I thought it might be difficult to explain this writing, so I tried to create a very crude mock-up and walk through it to explain how I saw this functioning. The idea of this is drum management, and the way that it's divided, essentially it deals with segmenting off your input devices, sets for those input devices, your kits, and a listing of your favorite drums. I'm going to start with talking about the kit management because I think that would be the simplest and easy to understand. So whenever you got a new kit, whether it was a hardware kit or a software kit, the first thing that you would do is you would come in and you would then add that to your kit collection. The first step in doing that would be indicating whether or not you were dealing with a hardware drum or an effects type drum, whether it was a VST plugin or an audio unit, etc. So then you would provide everything that you needed for the script to create a new track with that device set as the output, with the proper patch and with the proper drum mat. I believe all of this could be done by setting up essentially a track template with that particular drum on it, with the correct patch and with the correct drum map loaded. So that's done first. Secondly, you would then need to, I don't know if these would need to be entered separately or if the script could grab that drum map and then create this, but you'd have to in some way name the device, or indicate what the clip was or what the patch was, and then this is like a library of the kits. So when any drum is used, in any project, when you select any of these drums to be used, a track is automatically created with that drum in that kit loaded and ready to record. All right. Let's talk about the input devices. So whenever you are working with an input device, you can make sets of different input devices. So maybe your keyboard, like a traditional 88-key keyboard, a large keyboard, or a launch pad, or you also have your little 25-key keyboard. Whatever devices you may plan to input drums on, you would then, the first thing you would do is simply click or play each key in whatever order you like, whatever order you think of those keys being logically sequenced for you. So like on a grid, you might start in the upper left, go to the side, and work your way down each row, or you may decide to go up. However you want to do it, you're just going to touch each key. The software will then make a recording of what the MIDI channel for that particular key is, and then it's ready to use. To use it, you then create a set where you tell what drum you want associated with, what the name of the drum, what you plan to name that key. So if I'm coming in now and I'm going to name this key bass drum, as I'm typing, it is doing a search through my kits looking for matches. Okay, so let's say I type as far as the word bass over here. I want to associate my first upper grid pad with the name bass drum. As I type bass, over on this side, every kit and every directory and every kit that contains the word bass in it would be highlighted. They're highlighted with green, showing that it has found the word bass in that directory or in that particular drum. And any kit or any drum that does not contain the word bass in it, it's not highlighted. Now I can connect this drum with that particular bass, whether it's highlighted or with that particular sound, whether it's highlighted or not. It doesn't matter. I can explore, I can use these to expand and explore for whatever sound I want. But I'm sort of given hints by what I type here. I'm searching this. So if I decided, well, I'm going to type in kick now, I could type in, I start typing kick. Anything that has a kick drum is going to be highlighted. I can expand out looking for the kick that I want. And then I'm simply going to click here on this drum, the active drum. I'll click on the drum I want. That connection is made. The input device is set on a new track. The inputs of the MIDIs, this would handle the translating the MIDI to the correct recording MIDI note names that are associated with the drums I've chosen. So it doesn't record, it uses these for input, but it translates the inputs of these to the correct drum, to the correct MIDI port, note, channel that I need to play this particular drum. If that kit is being selected for the first time, maybe if I'm selecting this bass drum and I then choose this Nashville kit and let's say I click on big bass drum to make that connection, then a track with this kit is created, and that particular track will be created when I'm finished. You might want to wait until there's a button that says something like process or send and does it all at the same time. Those details, I would leave that up to whoever makes this, because they'd have to iron out those details, and those aren't really the idea behind it. You could do that however you wanted. It could be anytime I click on these, it creates a track, or that might be messy, however you feel like is best done. But when it's all said and done, this bass gets connected to this for recording a track. And then I would go on and choose my rim shot, and if that rim shot was in the same kit, it would not duplicate and create another version of that software kit. It would record it to the same track on the different MIDI drum note, and it would only create new tracks when I go to a drum that is on now a separate kit. But I could be very careful in making sure I choose matches from over here, from kits over here, and try to match things from the same kit to conserve the resources of the number of kits that get loaded for my recording. Or I could go wild and just every drum be from a different kit if my computer can handle that. But I'm simply picking a match for any. I'm naming these, and then I'm picking my match over here. What do I want this pad to do? What am I going to name it? Help me find it. Oh, this is the one I want. Click on it. It's set up. All right, so what then of this section? What's the point of this complete section here? What is this going to be? This is for a listing of my favorite drums, and by default, how this is associated with the drums in the kit. So essentially, this is for setting up listings of frequently used or favorites or special things that I want to be able to find and categorize however I wish, not according to kit, but in whatever way I wish. I can create new directories, I can make a directory, I can make subdirectories, and I can put those, I name these whatever I name them, I name them whatever I want. So if I hear, let's say I'm just exploring a kit and I say, wow, that is an awesome thud kick. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that as thud. I name it thud over here, and then what I would do is I would simply then click, when I have this highlighted, I'd click on that drum that I thought was amazingly cool thud drum. So let's say that was Massive Kick 1. When this is highlighted, that connects with this. So then in the future, I can dig into the kits to find the ones I want, but I can also just say, hey, I want that massive thud kick for this bass drum song, and I can go looking for thud, and that remembers the connection with the particular drum in the particular kit. I don't have to remember what kit it was in. I don't have to remember that. I just save my favorite things here in any way I want, in any directory I want, by whatever name I want, and I can look for those in the future. Now, if I wanted this to be a match for the word bass drum, I've got to include the word bass in here. So maybe I'd call it thud bass or something like that, thud bass drum. Name it however you want, but the search functions are also operating on these as well. So I'm getting the directories and the particular drums that have been named in a way to match with the word bass. I guess I shouldn't have put these in green. They don't have the word bass. Well, they have the word bass over here. But the idea is if something in this matches, it highlights and makes it that way. I can kind of look around using this for search, both in my collection of individual drums and in my drum kits. I can find things. All right. So what is this fallback, live fallback, and render fallback? So these are, if I connect here, if I use this to connect to, say, the thud, then what I'm going to get is I will get two separate drums. This will be the drum that by default, without selecting anything else, by default, this is the drum that is used during the recording process. I don't know about your audio latency, but with mine, I like very tight audio latency for drums. I can kind of get by with piano, a lot of key stuff with less, with a little audio latency. But when it comes to drums, I just feel like I need them really, really tight, and I like using hardware drums. So you could use a very low latency drum for recording. You could use your MIDI drums connected to external MIDI devices, real drum machines, external drum machines, or very low latency plugins. You can use those here. And then in this section, you would choose the drum that you would also want to be set up for, I'll call it rendering, but it's really for playback once you're finished the recording process. This is for live and for recording. And then once you're finished, this can be muted, and this will have also, it won't have monitoring turned on. It will create a track for this one with monitoring on to hear it. This one it will create with monitoring turned off. You could set it up to not include monitoring, because like if you're like me and you're using a mixer, your hardware devices are going through the mixer. You don't have it, they're not even coming into the computer. I don't need it monitored. So you could set this up however you do your track template for this particular drum. When you first set it up, it would set it up that way each time. So whether or not you use monitoring on the template, it would be monitoring or not monitoring as your live drum. But then you would mute your live drum and you would go to your choice for the higher latency, higher quality drums that you might be using. Again, this would set up two tracks, not just one. This would set up two tracks when you choose the Tama. If you only choose one of these or the other, then that's fine. But if you choose, for the bass drum, I would select one live and I would select one render. Okay, they don't have to be associated with Tama. Sorry about that. Now, over on this side, I have one more thing, this L, R, and D. And what that would simply be is the ability to override in a temporary situation, to override. If I click here, I would be overriding my general usual choice. Say I don't want to change these associations with Tama or thud. This is always my drums I want to use for thud. But for right now, while this is my drum, I'd like this to be the norm, but right now I want to go ahead and try recording this with, let's say, with this bass drum. So if I clicked here, live, I would hear this one. Maybe that wouldn't work with this. Maybe I'll try the Behringer, since this is another live instrument. Maybe I'll expand this one out, pick the patch I want, and put this one on live. And then instead of hearing this one in the recording, I'd be hearing this one in the recording. And then if I didn't like that, I can just click on another one, see if anything sounds a little bit better than this one, and this would be live. So when I click on these, the track is set up. It's created for me. It's got the right drum map automatically applied to it. It has, I guess if you're doing it as a track, it can even have effects added to it if you're using track templates to set these up. Now, if I do not, I could override also my rendering drums, the ones that I want to use after I'm not playing live anymore. I can override those as well. But I could also simply set drums to be duplicated. Sorry, this is there. That doesn't need to be there. Well, let me just do this. I'll zoom in so that doesn't even come into play. So this would allow, these drums will still be recorded. This one's going to set up to record, and that'd be the one I kind of want to use for recording. This one I'm setting up to be my main drum, but this will create new tracks with additional drums being played for this drum over here. That way I might want to try a combination of drums, or I might want to audition one and then audition a second one, and I'd have the recording for each of those drums. Every drum that I choose for duplicate, if it's in a new kit, it sets that track up. It puts that duplicate drum ready to record, and it does all the MIDI routing, getting this same MIDI input from this same key over here. It's going to getting this key and recording it on each track on the correct MIDI number that it needs to be recorded on to match the kit that's been chosen. I know that's really like an aggressive script. It will be a lot of work. There's no way in the world I could create it. I barely have written a few simple scripts. I wouldn't know how to do this. I don't even know how to make something that looks like a table in a script. No way I could do it. But if anybody's interested in doing it, if you feel it's a worthwhile idea, if it seems like a smart way to deal with drums, if it seems useful, if it seems like something you could use as a starting point, you know how to make it better, that's fine. Any of those things. I just thought maybe it would be useful to somebody, and maybe somebody would like the idea and might want to run with it. I appreciate your time. Thanks.